What's happening, everybody? Thank you very much. I always appreciate you watching. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to my 7th classic horror movie review of October 2024. This is my review of a movie from 1986, Night of the Creeps. This movie was directed by Fred Dekker, who directed only 3 mainstream theatrical films in his career. Two of those movies are two of my favorite movies of the 80s, one being The Monster Squad from 1987 and this movie right here. I believe the third major film he directed was 1993's RoboCop 3. Not the best of the RoboCop movies, but it's a movie that I saw in the theaters and I have some nostalgia for because, even though it was on the lighter side of that franchise, as a kid I enjoyed it and so I have fun with it. But nevertheless, I like Fred Dekker's work. Very much like the last movie that I talked about in my previous review, Tremors, a movie that was heavily inspired by the creature features of the 1950s. Night of the Creeps is heavily inspired by the science fiction B movies of the 1950s, and there's definitely a bit of tribute being paid here to Ed Wood's Plan 9 from Outer Space, which was notoriously known as one of the worst movies of all time. But there's definitely a bit of that DNA here with the plot. Night of the Creep stars the great Tom Atkins as Detective Ray Cameron. Tom Atkins was an actor that could pop up in movies as a supporting actor like in Lethal Weapon or Striking Distance, but he was also one of the great B movie actors of the 1980s, appearing in movies like The Fog. He was also the star of Halloween 3, also starred in Maniac Cop. For my money, this is the best role that Tom Atkins ever played, and my personal favorite. I really enjoy watching him in this. It looks like he's having so much fun playing this character because watching the film, you can tell this guy understood the assignment and knew exactly what he needed to do for this movie. You can tell he knows exactly what kind of movie he's in. There's even a line in the movie where he says something about, he's called onto this scene, this crime scene, and he says, it looks like something out of a bad B movie or something like that. Even though Tom Atkins is kind of hamming it up throughout the movie, I do enjoy a lot of his little cheesy quips and one-liners, and I like the little backstory they set up for the character at the beginning of the movie where we see it's in the 1950s for the first 10 or 15 minutes or so, and so it's shot in black and white, and they do a very good job of creating that 1950s aesthetic with the clothes and the cars and the music. And something happens to his character in this opening of the film where we see it kind of sets his character on a path for later on where we flash forward to the 80s and we see him older and he's a bit more jaded. He's got a bit of a death wish, and they even give the character a really cool catchphrase where people call him up and he answers the phone and just says, "Thrill me." After the 1950s black and white intro, the movie jumps ahead to 1986, as I previously mentioned, where we meet a couple of other important characters, Chris and JC, who are a couple of young guys, college guys, they're best buds. JC is disabled, he's using crutches, and you can tell by their back and forth banter, these guys are real good friends, and they're just kind of walking around campus, and um, Chris's character spots a really cute girl who he kind of falls for right then and there. She's like your typical girl next door type. The girl's name, I believe, is Cynthia. Chris and JC, of course, want to hang out with the popular crowd, and they want to get cute girls like Cynthia, and they want to get in the fraternity so they can reap all those benefits. And so they have a little chat with the Bradster, who is your typical douchebag, bully type guy, and he basically tells these guys to go and get a cadaver and take it to the front steps of one of the buildings of one of the fraternities. In their attempt to find a cadaver for their little fraternity initiation, Chris and JC end up in this lab where they stumble upon a cryogenically human person, and they actually take him down out of his case, but they end up just chickening out, and then they run out of the room, screaming like banshees, by the way, and so they just leave it laying there on the ground, and so pretty soon it's just gone, it disappears, and that's where Detective Ray Cameron comes in when he gets the phone call and answers the phone. "Thrill me." And all the while, throughout campus, little alien slugs are slithering around, getting into people's mouths and taking over their brains, laying eggs, and turning them into zombies. Pretty soon, our main characters do learn about what's going on campus with these alien slugs going into people's mouths and laying eggs in their brain and turning them into zombies. And there's a cool moment in a bathroom where one of our main characters is on the floor and he can't get up, and the little alien slugs are slithering all across the ground, and he's trying to avoid them. And once they get into your mouth, it's over. Aside from the aliens and the zombies, there's also an axe murderer in the mix with this movie, and so this movie is doing all these different things. It's an alien movie, it's a slasher movie, it's got the zombie element, and so it's balancing all these different ingredients, and somehow it all works. And I think it's all down to the humor because there are some very funny moments all throughout the movie that kind of helps to balance things out with the horror. And if you're an old school horror fan and you know the names of your favorite horror filmmakers, you're going to have fun watching this movie trying to spot all the little Easter eggs and all the shout outs to other horror filmmakers, like our main characters, Chris and JC. Their last names in this movie are Romero and Carpenter Hooper. You also have all kinds of other references in there. At one point, somebody yells out, Sergeant Raimi at one point. It's obvious nod to Sam Raimi. Someone yells out, Detective Landis at one point. John Landis. Someone yells out, Officer Craven at one point. It's Wes Craven. And it goes on and on. We get a little bit of shotgun action, we get a little bit of flamethrower action, and it wouldn't be a B movie without an appearance by the great Dick Miller, one of the all-time great B movie actors in there in a short scene. Very much like Tremors, Night of the Creeps is a loving tribute to the B sci-fi horror movies of the 1950s and of yesteryear, and it's a movie that I personally give 4 stars. I highly recommend this movie, and I do think it's a perfect movie for October. I do think you can find it on streaming, but if you want to look for a hard copy, nothing wrong with that, because you got to get them while you can before they're all gone, because we all know they're going extinct at this point. But I happen to have a copy right here of Night of the Creeps, the director's cut on Blu-ray, and it's one of those Blu-rays that I cherish because it's a movie that I cherish, and it is a real fun time every time. 1986's Night of the Creeps. Check it out. Thank you all very much for watching this classic horror movie review. I very much appreciate it. It being October, I'm going to continue with the horror movie reviews all the way till the 31st, so look out for more. If you're new to the channel, if you're into movies, if you're into classics, and if you're into this kind of thing, hit the bell, become a subscriber. Please don't forget to comment, share, like. It always helps out. If you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for your views and all of your support. I very much appreciate all of it. Everybody take care of each other. Peace out. Till next time, God bless and stay safe.